One of the most interesting trends in the hospitality industry the last several years in Asia Pacific has been the growth of Korean culture. K-pop, as many of you know, is extremely popular with young people all over the Asia Pacific region, and there's nothing more popular on weekday evenings than watching Korean dramas. Now, up until recently, Korean culture has not translated over into cuisine. What's happening now is Korean food is becoming popular, primarily due to Korean dramas and K-pop. And I'm reminded of a very funny incident recently where one of the Korean dramas that plays in China showed a Korean celebrity eating fried chicken in a Korean fried chicken restaurant. And suddenly there was a boom for Korean fried chicken all over Shanghai. Korean food service companies have been their own worst enemies in trying to take advantage of the attraction of Korean food now in Asia Pacific, primarily to the fact that they don't have really good international franchise system development, and most of them do not speak very good English, so it's very hard for them to develop their concepts overseas. However, two leading Korean food service chains, one of them called SPC and the other CJ Foods, have really tried very, very hard to develop their own concepts in the big markets, such as China, Vietnam, the Philippines. And you see they're primarily focused upon bakery concepts. Korean bakery is a little bit like Japanese bakery. It's Western influenced, but Koreanized. So you see concepts like tour le jour, which is kind of a little bit like Bread Talk from Singapore, where it's affordable bakery, but with a Korean twist. And you see concepts like Paris Baguette. They're very popular with local Asian consumers. They don't really look Korean because they have French names. But where are the French bakeries? Nowhere to be seen. Where is Panera Bread? Nowhere to be seen. Where is the Japanese bakery concept, such as Kobeya? Nowhere to be seen. So the Koreans have been very aggressive at developing bakery. And I think they're going to continue to grow very rapidly and take advantage. Surprisingly, real Korean cuisine has pretty much been developed by local entrepreneurs, and you don't see a lot of real Korean concepts. Now, CJ, which is pretty much the largest food service company in Korea, has been experimenting with a concept called bibigo. And bibigo is a very contemporized version of bibimbap. It's a lot of different protein and vegetables over rice. And they've been trying to make it work in China and elsewhere, and the jury is still out whether or not it will really be successful. Korean cuisine tends to be successful where ethnic Koreans are. An interesting statistic, 90% of all Korean restaurants are only in 3 countries: Japan, China, and the United States. And if you look at the United States, about 70% of all Korean restaurants are either in Southern California or Hawaii, where ethnic Koreans are. So Korean food is still very segmented, but still has opportunity. Actually, the largest number of Korean restaurants in any country is in Japan, where there are over 25,000. But they're actually called yakiniku, or Japanized Korean-style grilled beef. And there are actually only about 5,000 real Korean restaurants. For Korean food really to be successful, it probably needs to be localized. And the good example are the Japanese yakiniku, which I just mentioned. So my take is Korean culture is becoming far more popular. It will translate into Korean cuisine. And if the food concepts in Korea don't get their act together quickly, the markets in Asia will generally be dominated by local entrepreneurs who are agile, quick to copy, and quick to localize.